Hello and welcome once again to Worldview on Dialogus. I'm Vishal Dahiya, and this week we're going to talk about Japan. In fact, after a 3-month-long political deadlock in Japan, Sanae Takaichi has finally managed to become Japan's first women prime minister. Takaichi, who is also known as protege of late Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe, is considered to be a hardliner conservative for her views on various aspects, including the Japan's military doctrine. We'll look at all those aspects. We'll look at Takaichi's journey and, of course, the challenges before her on the domestic front. But we will also take a closer look in today's show as to what this means for India-Japan relations in the fields of infrastructure, in the fields of defense cooperation, larger, broader economic cooperation and human capital. Of course, not ruling out the regional cooperation, specifically in Indo-Pacific and India's and Japanese outreach in the African continent as well. And for more on this, today we are joined by two distinguished experts. Let me first introduce them to you. We have with us former Ambassador Ashok Sajjanhar, who is joining us. We're also joined by Mr. Alok Bansal, Executive Vice President of India Foundation. Welcome both of you gentlemen to Worldview on Dialogus. I'll begin first with Takaichi's political journey, and of course how she made it and what does it mean for Japan, and then we can come to the Indo-Japan aspect. I'd like to begin with you, Ambassador Sajjanhar, and start by trying to understand what does this mean, because Takaichi's image is ultra conservative hardliner, China hawk, has specific views on women advancement, also supports only male hierarchy in the Japanese imperial family, is a frequent visitor to the controversial shrine as far as military doctrine is concerned. What does this mean for the Japanese politics?
Yes, thank you very much, Vishal, for having me on the show. It's a very important subject. It's a very important theme. As you said very correctly, she is the first woman prime minister to have taken up this office in Japan. So, one could really see it as the breaking of a glass ceiling. But then, as you have mentioned also that, she has been a minister in she's been in politics for the last, about 30 years. I think she first became a member of the parliament in Japan in 1993. So it's about 30 years plus. And during this period, she's also been Minister of Gender Equality, Minister of Internal Affairs, etc. But her views as far as gender equality and women empowerment are in fact not all that liberal or not all that revolutionary. As you said very rightly, she has advocated that it should be it's only males who should be become in the royal family, who should occupy the top position as far as the constitutional position as far as the country is concerned. She has not agreed to change the law that would allow women to keep their own surname after their marriage. She is not in favor of same-sex marriages. So as far as her social views are concerned, they are very conservative. And in fact, that could be one of the reasons why, she's been able to get catapulted to this particular position, although she has tried for this in the past. And even now, it was at the 11th hour that she, her party, the Liberal Democratic Party, has been able to get this position. But of course, she has, she's 64 years at the moment. She's the youngest prime minister in Japan to occupy this position. She has huge number of challenges, and I'm sure we are going to come to that. But let me very quickly mention just two of them. One is as far as the economy is concerned, and the economy is not doing well at all. So she wants to follow the policies of Margaret Thatcher, whom she, has touted as her icon, as her hero. And basically, she wants to follow the policies of Abenomics, Shinzo Abe, in terms of much more liberal monetary policies and much greater government spending. And the
Okay.
second challenge is that of getting support for the LDP,
Eco.
once again renewed, because LDP has been losing ground, particularly amongst the young voters, and she would like to get them back to the party. The party has lost majority in both houses in recent elections, and that is why her predecessor Shigeru Ishiba had to resign, and she's been able to come this.
Mhm.
But the next elections are in 2027, so we'll really have to wait and see how that goes.
Okay, okay, fair enough, Mr. Sajjanhar. And since you mentioned Margaret Thatcher as well, Captain Bansal, once Takaichi mentioned, of course, she considers Thatcher as her idol, and she mentions herself as Iron Lady of Japan, youngest prime minister, the first women prime minister of Japan, ultra conservative views as far as cultural or gender aspects are concerned. But as Mr. Sajjanhar was pointing out, in the economic policies, quite a liberal stance, more on the lines of her mentor Shinzo Abe. So looks like challenges for her are largely cut out as prime minister.
Firstly, let's be very clear, LDP has never been a united house. In fact, the cabinet that she has constituted has many of her opponents who have been given the key positions, including the foreign minister, etc., who are not actually totally supportive of him. So that factor we have to accept. Secondly, it's a coalition government. Coalition partners, the Japan Innovation Party, which is Osaka based, is probably hoping that by being a member of this coalition government, they'll be able to expand their influence. But they are for strong federalism, actually. So that's another issue. As far as her economic policies are concerned and Thatcherite policies are concerned, that actually pits her against Bank of Japan, because too much of spending and fiscal consolidation, which the bank propagates, there is a conflict. And I think like President Trump across the Pacific, now you can say, when we look from Japan, also has problems with the Fed and is trying to pressurize them. She would also probably have a problem with Bank of Japan. That's one thing. From our point of view, on foreign policy issues, she is seen to be hawkish on China, but she's also very much opposed to immigration. She is opposed to immigration. She has a very hard line on immigration. She has a very strong views on Senkaku Islands. And as she has taken over office, she faces serious challenges. Now, yesterday's sanctions on the Russian oil firms, etc. The Japan imports a large amount of LNG from Russia. It'll have to look into it. How does it happen? Because a country whose economy is already in real doldrums, can you let go of this source of energy and look for alternate sources which are likely to be more expensive? So there are issues because Japan's biggest problem is demographic crunch. Its population has been consistently reducing for over decades now. So if you are not going to allow immigration, you will find that the industry will slowly and certainly start moving away from Japan, because most of the industry does require some amount of labor which you are not going to allow. So she does face problems, and I think it's a different thing to propagate policies and views when you are a contender for the throne. It's quite different to stick to those policies when you are occupying the throne with the support of disparate groups within your party as well as an outside party. So that has its own dynamics, and I guess her major challenges are going to be political, because if she can sustain herself, that itself would be a great thing, because she propagates a conservative viewpoint, and in conservative society, she's the first female prime minister.
Indeed.
She also hails from a region from where no party leader has emerged. From Nara prefecture, she's the first one to have become the party president or the prime minister. So we need to understand that she has popularity within the party as of now, and maybe some dynamic steps may make her as popular as Margaret Thatcher was. So I think she has a right idol. Whether she'll succeed or not, time will tell us.
Okay, indeed, and a lot of first to her credit, as both of you are pointing out. But Mr. Sajjanhar, in the context of what Captain Bansal was referring to, task largely cut out for Takaichi. A lot of contradictions, politically speaking, as well, but a lot of contradictory situations also dealing with the economic crisis or economic situation, rather, Japanese economic situation, Bank of Japan as well. Then, her stance on China to deal with other global economic powerhouses like United States of America being in the same line with the oil diplomacy as well. Diplomatically speaking, how tough will her path from here onwards will be vis-a-vis China, Russia, USA as well. We'll of course come to India a bit later, but largely when we look at these global powers.
Yeah, thank you for that question, Vishal. You see, the path would not be easy for any prime minister. So it's not, specially designed for her that, she has come into that position. Meaning, in fact, if you look at it, there have been four different prime ministers in Japan over the last 5 years. And that is because, the challenges are so huge. And the challenges are so huge not only in Japan, for that matter. The challenges are so huge all over the world because the economy is, there is so much of turmoil, there's so much of turbulence, particularly after, Mr. Trump has come. Even before that, of course, there has been huge turmoil that has been created, globally. If you look at it, whether it is the start of the, maybe just 4 5 years ago, it was COVID. Then after that, before the world had been able to come to grips with the COVID, aftermath of the COVID, you had also the Russia-Ukraine conflict. And in terms of the impact that it has had on energy prices the whole world over, you have had that issue, and the in terms of supply of foodstuffs and fertilizers, the disruption of supply chains that has taken place. So the point I'm making is that this is a challenge that is being faced by most countries. But of course, as far as Japan is concerned, particularly so, you mentioned about the United States. Of course, United States is the most important partnership for Japan, as it is for a large number of other countries, not only in the area of economy, but also in the area of security. And when you have such an unpredictable president in the White House, as Mr. Trump has been for the last 10 months or so, then it makes your task even more challenging and even more difficult. And that is why, Mr. Ishiba was not really able to stick on because, the people thought that the sort of agreement that he had, the trade deal that he was able to get with the United States was not beneficial. Like most of the other countries, they just wanted to, all of them succumbed, all of them really capitulated in front of the demands of President Trump, that he got free access, the United States got free access to their markets, but they were still forced to pay some sort of tariffs, 15%, 20%, 15% in the case of Japan,
Indeed.
and then also have investments, huge investments, $500 billion investment. So obviously the people are not very happy at this one-sided agreement. As far as Russia is concerned, again, since the start of the Russia-Ukraine conflict and the sanctions that have been imposed by the West, and Japan stands very strongly with the West on that. The prices, energy prices have increased, have gone up. The supplies have come down in that sense in the market. So, that has created a problem as far as Japan also is concerned. And of course, we have, you mentioned also China. And Takaichi has a very hawkish position on China, whether it is on the South China Sea, whether it's on the East China Sea, whether it's on the Senkaku Islands. So she has a very strong position on that, and that pitches her, and she has a very positive relationship with Taiwan. So,
Okay.
her assumption of office has been very warmly welcomed by Taiwan, who has said, she had in fact spoken about a much stronger partnership between Japan and Taiwan. So I think there are all these both domestic, social, cultural, economic, and foreign policy challenges that
Indeed.
confront her as she takes up her office.
Okay, okay. Captain Bansal, you earlier spoke about her stance on immigration policies and, of course, Japan's demographic challenges. Now, in that context, when we look at from Indian perspective, and now we're switching gear to what does it mean for India per se specifically, there is an initiative which was just recently launched, India-Japan Human Resource, engagement, and that basically talks about exchange of at least 5 lakh individuals over a period of 5 years. Including 50,000 highly skilled individuals. So what happens to these kind of agreements? Because if the leader in charge doesn't have a very benevolent view on this aspect, how should we go ahead? And in fact, it's their need as well.
See, it is their need. But again, as I said, immigration is always a complex issue. Like in the American case, when Indian immigrants go there, it's America's interest also. Those companies need those Indians, but there will always be a section of society which will feel threatened, which will feel that their rights have been overtaken. So there, in Japan also, when outsiders come, some people feel their cultural dilution is taking place, the cultural invasion is taking place, all sorts of comments come. Now, her opinion is very clear. She is very hawkish on immigration, so I really don't know how it will work out. One way out was that some people from Japan had said that we should restrict our immigration to Northeast India. Now, this is again another very funny thing which you have found, which I found even in Taiwan. Taiwanese also wanted to have Indian immigrants coming from Northeast India because racially, I think they assimilate more easily in their populace. That's one perception which they had.
But that's a misguided perception, Captain Bansal. As a nation, how could we allow these perceptions to continue?
I fully agree with that. That's why I'm saying that. But these are the perceptions. Actually, there was a time when they wanted to do some skilling institutions. They wanted to set up in Northeast and get people there. There are problems with this. But as I said, immigration is going to be a problem, and if she doesn't allow immigration, I don't think so Japanese economy can be salvaged also. That factor also needs to be understood, because you need population growth for consumption, if not for production. That is also required. That factor needs to be appreciated. She has some very strong views on some of these issues. From our point of view, the good thing is she's a fiercely nationalist. She believes in amending the constitution so that armed forces could come. She's also been in the forefront of changing certain mentions in the textbooks of Japanese armed forces, which have been actually critical of them. She's talking of invasions to be said moving forward, or even Nanjing massacre, or things like that, which she feels that some of the textbooks have been highly critical of the Japanese armed forces. And one of the reasons why she has been visiting Yakusuni Shrine is because she takes pride in the armed forces, and that's a very important facet, because every visit to a Yakusuni Shrine, and now once she visits it as a Prime Minister, I'm sure there will be reverberations all over East Asia and Southeast Asia.
Indeed, there will be, and that's a very pertinent point as far as her stance on Japan's military doctrine and overall aspect of defense outreach is concerned. Mr. Sajjanhar, that opens up a lot of doors and windows for us here in India on the front of a larger, broader defense cooperation with Japan, something which we can benefit from as well?
No, absolutely. I think, the defense cooperation, it's a very robust partnership. It's a very strong partnership. It has been evolving. It's a very dynamic partnership. You would recall that we had started, in addition to the summit relations that we have with Japan since 2006, and we've been having them quite regularly and frequently. We also have the 2+2 partnership with Japan, and in that the defense minister takes part regularly. There is also at the level of the defense ministers and the meetings between the counterparts of the two countries. That is very important. There is, I think, we can now start even in terms of thinking, rather in addition to having exercises, in addition to having marine domain awareness, and so many other activities under that rubric of defense and security cooperation. I think we can also start looking at the possibility of defense manufacturing, collaboration in defense manufacturing.
Joint projects.
Joint projects. There is good niche technologies that are available in Japan, and of course, as far as the human capacity and the human skills of resources of India are concerned, both of us can cooperate, both of us can collaborate. Of course,
Okay.
both are members of the Quad, and that also has a very significant security element. Both of us also cooperate and participate in the Malabar exercises, which are annual exercises, and many of them have been taking place in East China Sea and in that region in
Okay.
terms of improving interoperability. So I think that is a very, in addition to economy, infrastructure, manufacturing, science and technology, cyber security, etc., that is a very important area of cooperation between the two countries.
Okay, since you mentioned these other aspects of the economic cooperation, Captain Bansal, India and Japan have already set an example as far as manufacturing is concerned. Maruti Suzuki is an example there. Similarly, when we look at infrastructure, now the focus is on infra. The bullet train between Ahmedabad and Mumbai is one example where we are collaborating. There are other infra projects as well. So a lot of green light ahead for these projects. We can continue working on them and perhaps think of other projects as well. Infra is the key area where India would benefit from this.
See, there is no doubt. I think JICA, etc., are investing huge and they are looking for projects where they can collaborate. But again, as I said, they are looking for viable projects. They are also very keen on connectivity projects as far as with Southeast Asia and Act East policies are concerned. JICA is again very much interested in taking up projects in Northeast India. Of course, they are taking up projects all over India. And Japanese projects have proved to be successful. I think Maruti is one success story. The bullet train hopefully will be another. We have Indo-Japanese Friendship Bridge in Delhi itself. There are so many projects, and I think Japan is a liberal aid giving country, and Japan would need to invest abroad. I think with the demographic crunch, and if they want to have a very conservative immigration policy, the only other solution would be to invest outside and probably hope to generate revenues that way. So hopefully we'll see Japanese investing in a big way. Hey, as I said, one field where India and Japan have huge economic potential is the field of tourism. And in fact, as we said, the Buddhist circuit is often talked of. India has really not harnessed the Buddhist circuit extensively. If we actually developed cities like Bodh Gaya, Sarnath, Rajgiri, we have a huge potential to attract a large number of Japanese tourists. But more significantly now, with the Prime Minister who takes pride in Japanese military and its past actions as well, we have a huge potential of getting people for war tourism. In fact, large number of Japanese even today come to visit Manipur and Nagaland and see where their forefathers perished. Japanese have created a peace pagoda in Manipur, etc. I think this can be built up in a big way because large number of Japanese soldiers perished in these areas. People don't really have accounts, etc. We can build that up. That could also be a viewpoint. So
Okay.
tourism is one thing, and we need to probably collaborate with Japan to build up adequate tourist infrastructure. We are, of course, building as far as bullet trains are concerned. One corridor is being built. We could go for further corridors. We could go for more airports. These are issues which we can take up. Japanese collaboration is always there, and that's what we should be looking for. Economically, I think we will see collaboration, but as I said, immigration will remain a very major issue because if
Okay.
Japanese crackdown on immigration, Japanese economic growth itself will be stymied.
Okay, indeed, those are key important areas as well. But one very important aspect, and Mr. Sajjanhar, I'd like to start with you. The last round of questions, which I have kept it for the last question, because this is really important when we look at Indo-Japan relationship from the Quad perspective, from the Indo-Pacific perspective, regional cooperation. How do you see things moving forward ahead from here onwards now that Japan has a new leader?
No, well, I think there will be a continuity as far as the policies are concerned, because, both Japan and India have been very active in terms of cooperation in our, in the different regions. We were very keen to work together as far as Bangladesh is concerned after the change of power last year in August. That a big question mark has come onto that. Both India and Japan were very keen to work together on the Colombo terminal project in Sri Lanka. That also had some issues, had some problems. India went over to another area in Colombo in terms of development of the port. But I think one of the most promising areas, Vishal, is that in terms of cooperation between India and Japan in Africa, because
Indeed.
In Africa, Japan is very keen to go, and it has a lot to offer. It is very accepted, as a partner country there. In terms of investment, in terms of technology, it can go there. And of course, as far as India is concerned, India also has huge acceptability there, and India's human resources, human capacity, that can, be a very good mix as far as Africa is concerned. And there is you would remember there was, Asia-Africa Growth Cooperation Program that was launched earlier. That has been now changed. The nomenclature has been changed to Japan, India, Indo-Pacific Development Initiative. And so it is a much broader coverage. It has much broader coverage. But definitely both India and Japan can work together, can collaborate, and that is a very promising area of cooperation. And
Okay.
also in the Indo-Pacific countries. One last comment, if you permit, I'll make.
Please go ahead.
When we've been talking about people to people connect, and I think that's a very important area, not only with Japan but with all countries, because governments will come, governments will go, but as far as it's the linkages between the people. And when we are talking about this exchange of 500,000 people that was decided when Prime Minister Modi visited Japan on the 29th and 30th of August, it is basically for people to go there, not to settle there. There will not be immigrants there. So I don't think we should be making that mistake that they will go for settling. These are basically people who are going as tourists to sort of, acquaint themselves with what is happening, and it will be travel both ways, so that it has, the more contact there is, the better understanding there will be, the better appreciation of
Okay.
each other's, challenges and opportunities and possibilities in diverse areas it will be. And I think that will be helpful for both sides, irrespective of what policies on immigration that, the Prime Minister Takaichi might be coming in with.
Okay, indeed, cultural exchanges and people-to-people connect is a very important cornerstone for better relations between any two countries, which we have seen in various other contexts as well. Last comment from you, Captain Bansal, on this very important aspect which has been, flagged by Mr. Sajjanhar, that is African continent being a very, very important, area for both Japan and India, and if both can continue to work with each other, it benefits all three, Japan, India, and of course African continent as well.
See, while there is no doubt that we could collaborate on Africa and there is a huge sky, but I feel there are other areas also where we need to collaborate, and one of them is Southeast Asia. For historical reasons, Southeast Asian countries are wary of Japan. And that's why you see China has made deep inroads. In fact, now RMB is actually going for a direct transfer or monetary policy, which will actually take a lot of trade outside the SWIFT system of which is Western dominated. So because of historical reasons, Japan has not been able to make such inroads. But Japan can definitely help India to make deep inroads into Southeast Asia, and India's Act East policy could fructify as far as this is concerned. So that's another area where I feel with Japanese support, India could make deep inroads into Southeast Asia, and that will be good if both the countries collaborate, because direct Japanese investments do incite some amount of apprehensions in these countries for historical reasons. So that's one area. Africa is, of course, the thing. On Quad, I have a viewpoint, which I must make it very clearly. We don't have a doubt that now you have a Japanese prime minister who is very keen, who is fiercely anti-China, who is a nationalist, who wants to change the constitution. And there is a lot of convergence as far as India and Japan is concerned. But the prime actor who will drive the Quad is still President Donald Trump, and his policies continue to be erratic. Now, if he continues on the path on which he has been doing, India would be forced to go for better relations with China. Now, India's improvement of relations with China, that itself will create issues as far as Quad is concerned. I think Quad's relevance now depends more on US than on any other country's policies, any other country which makes a policy. As far as immigration and people's exchange is concerned, I always said that I think we need to have greater people-to-people connect, because we need to understand each other. Understanding is important, and that will probably to a very great extent reduce xenophobia. But when you send people for working, even if they are going on for temporary work, see, workers very often in due course start becoming settlers. When we sent Girmitias, they had gone for work. They had not gone to settle. They had gone for 5 years agreement for work. There was extendable agreement, then possibility of settlement. Similarly, when initially Indians went to US, they went for work. They started settling down. So when people start working and people start finding the environment conducive, then you find, generally what you find today is in the West, it is not the opposition only to immigration, permanent settlement. The opposition is to workers. So people who are culturally conservative often perceive even workers from other countries with hostility. That's
okay. So clearly, as far as immigration is concerned, it's a touchy issue almost everywhere in the world now, and those aspects will have to be dealt with domestically by the host country in terms of its policy. But largely, when we look at the broader Indo-Japan relationship, there are a lot of contours. There are a lot of areas which can be explored further, be it tourism, be it regional cooperation. With respect to Quad, Indo-Pacific, African continent, Southeast Asia, and of course on the economic front when we talk about infrastructure and better defense cooperation as well. All eyes on Japan's new PM, the first women Prime Minister, the youngest Prime Minister as well, hawkish stand, ultra conservative stand as well. Let's see how it goes for Takaichi, Japan, and of course India-Japan relations. Thank you so much, Captain Alok Bansal and Mr. Ashok Sajjanhar, for joining us here and sharing your valuable inputs and views on this key development in Japan, and of course its impact, and analyze how we can move forward. We'll come back again next week with a different topic. Till then, keep watching Worldview and Dialogus and subscribe to our channel. Thank you.